blessed. Oh, it's an instruction for all of us. Such a beautiful scripture. I was hungry, and she came and fed me. I was thirsty, and I was given drink. I was naked, and I was clothed. We are a community that is amazing in this area, in the ways that we care for one another. Actually, humanity, though we sometimes do inhumane things, are amazing because we're divine beings. And in a pinch, worldwide, no matter what the culture is, no matter what language is spoken, when our hearts are opened, we go to that place of caring for one another. An amazing power is brought forth. Today is week 11 of our 12 Powers in Man series that Charles Filmore wrote not so long ago. Late 1800s, early 1900s. This book came out in the early 1900s, and each of these powers is meant to help us be aware of them so that we can develop them in our lives as pathways on our spiritual journey of living the Christ life, of living in alignment with how we came to be. And along that journey, there are often times when you and I may say, how many times we say, I don't know. I don't understand. And we mean that truly. We feel clueless as to what to do, what to think, what to say. And the reason invariably for that is that we're attempting to address it as human beings, from our ego, from our personality. Fortunately, we have another place, a deeper place, a sustainable place where we can go. Charles Filmore says of understanding, which is our 11th power, and the powers are all on your bulletin. You can see that next week is the final one. It's strength next week in this acronym, Faith Will Power Us. Charles Filmore says of understanding that it is the faculty of supreme knowing. So it's not just what we think with our heads. It's beyond knowledge and intelligence, which I'm really, are you happy about that? There is a power within you that knows. And we get to give up that sense of having to do it ourselves. There are two ways of getting understanding. One is from experience, that it has to do with the external world. We get it from outer physical ways. Our senses are here for that, to suss things out. The second way is through internal knowing. That knowing that's internal is beyond the physical. Thank God. It is the metaphysical, the beyond. That which you and I can see and hear. Because the cones and rods of our eyes only pick up on things that are perceptible, that move at a certain speed. There's a whole frequency taking place beyond that. It's a spiritual frequency of the power of God in and through us. Simply put, I may align my thoughts about any particular subject. I may even walk in peace. And yet if I have not love, as it says in 1 Corinthians 13, if I have not love, if I'm not coming from my heart, then I'm nothing. I'm like a clanging cymbal, a gong. Yet in all our getting, the fullness of understanding is all that needs to take place. And then we get to go to our hearts for that majesty to be empowered. As we know, our heart represents, this is that physical place that we think of as representing love. And every seeker, every one of us is given a map. We have an amazing inner illumination, this guidance system within us that is constantly pointing the way. Where do I go so I can understand what's going on? Bless you. We can always go to God. Meister Eckhart, lived in the 13th, 14th centuries. He was a mystic and I would say a philosopher, a theologist. And he says this, the seed of God is within us all. In the Christian tradition, that would be the Christed pattern, the innate Christ within us all. Whether we look as if we are prospering, or whether we are one of those who is naked, who simply is coming to you to ask for something to wear. One of us who is thirsty. And there are plenty of those among us, so that we will remember and we will live in alignment with the truth. Typically, when something happens that we don't understand, even though the understanding is encoded in us, typically we go to a place of doubt. We go to a place of thinking we don't know, nobody around us knows, we don't have our own answer, somebody else has our answer. It's that who moved my cheese thing. And yet when we're still, we always get the aha. We are meant to know. If you visualize a tree, if you would, and that's going to be a different tree for everybody in this room, I know, but just visualize a tree. And let's say that the 12 powers are the branches of the tree, reaching up out of the tree. And when we use them, they're in balance, and they're flexible, and they're moving, and we gain all that we are here to use and employ. All the spiritual tools are already here. Our spiritual understanding is the above of the tree, the new growth, the interesting things that we're being opened up to in our lives, the new relationships, the way of living into the old relationships, that new growth that reaches and moves. Below the trunk of the tree that you are imagining, there are the roots. And we know those trees that have the deepest roots and that spread out the widest have the firmest foundation. It's the foundation Joey was singing of. The foundation of Christed strength, or God energy, or amazing light and love. Those roots reach out. And then there's the trunk, the core, as we call it, of the human body, where love resides, the centering of our heart. So when we're out of balance, although the seed is the same, the seed of God is within us all, when we're out of balance, we're simply, even though the life energy is the same, we're simply not expressing it, not allowing an openness of heart, of mind, not reaching into the foundation of the roots perhaps, and getting a little out of whack in that moment. When we get a little out of whack, we get to go, oh, wait, what do I do? Where do I go? I could go to God. I could pray in this moment. I could center myself in this moment. So for instance, if you have a lot of strength and order and will going on around a certain subject in your life, but very little love and not so much understanding, then you may become in that moment, in response, judgmental or angry or confused or controlling. Or you may have a lot of love and imagination and enthusiasm going, but you don't have so much faith or strength or power behind it. And in that moment, you may have a difficulty making decisions. That's how they work in concert with each other. And trees are amazing. Like many flowers, most flowers, they are heliotropic. And so they track with the sun. They track with the light, which, by the way, shines on all of us exactly the same. There's no greater or lesser in the kingdom. And so these plants track because they have this inner wisdom that is tapped into the light. And you too have that inner wisdom. Sometimes we feel as if though we're in the dark, in shadow. It's just a call to step out and step into the light because a transformation is taking place. So I'm saying to you today, to you, as we look at understanding, that you always have the ability in any situation, any relationship, to become more deeply rooted in the ground of your being. And then to reach up into the quiet of your heart, into the love, and let that love expand. Feel the inner magnificence of the divine in you that knows. And then allow that transformation to take place. Just reach up and out in the transcendence that makes all things new. In 1 Corinthians 6:19 it says, "Know ye not that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, which is in you, You need nothing else. And yet we doubt. Thomas is the disciple that represents the power of understanding. And I love that because Thomas is known as what? Doubting Thomas. Anybody here got the Doubting Thomas inside? Yeah? So there's that part of us. He's also, it says, Doubting Thomas, the one doubting, the one who came to believe. When you and I doubt, it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing. It just means that we're opening up, we're questioning what's going on and creating a space so that the answer can pour in or pour out from the withinness of you. He said, unless I place my finger in the mark of the nails and place my hand in his side, speaking of Jesus, having been crucified and reappearing, I will not believe. And he did. According to the story, he did. He touched that space and his doubt was diminished. And he did, and he believed. Thomas and you and me is a part of us. This is an old context for it. You know, Wayne Dyer and in the biology of belief as well. Bruce Lipton, people have written about it and talked about it. This was an old belief. This is an old way of us. If I see it, I'll believe it. But if we have to see it to believe it, we're only going to see and believe a tiny part of what's really going on. In 2014, we know that if we believe it, we will see it. If I believe it, I'll see it. So Thomas Didymus, as was his full name, said basically, show me. Show me, what does that mean? Let me see the truth that will set me free. And I know and I pray and I hope that each and every one of you wants that. I know you want that. We want to learn. We want to grow. We want to expand our spiritual knowing. In order to do that, we have to be teachable. We get to be teachable. To have an innocence like a tiny child. And with that part of us, that Thomas part of us, because that's what he did best, is he listened. Follow the guidance that's being given us because we will come to understand. My church in Roanoke, there was a woman, one of our elders. She was in her 90s. Her name was Bouvier. And I say this in Clarabelle's honor. She shared a story that I can share with you today, and it was a wonderful one. Clarabelle had been a nurse, and she had 2 children. One of her sons was born differently gifted, and he'd gotten in a fire. He didn't know what fire was, and he'd gotten in a fire. Brought fire to his bed, actually. And every day she wrapped him, unwrapped him, and wrapped him. For years, this healing took place. And she had another child as well, 2 children. And there was a day when she woke up and realized that she did not have any money. She looked in her wallet. She couldn't believe it. She looked in her socks. She had stuffed it away in different places. There was nothing, no visible money. And so she said, she had this thought. It came to her. She said, well, when I have nothing, I know there are a lot of stories about this in the Bible. You know, that there's the widow with the oil. She found a little bit of oil. You know, maybe I'll find something. There must be something about this in the Bible. So she went to her family Bible and she opened it up because there was a page that seemed to just open up to where there was a $5 bill in the middle of her Bible. There must be something in the middle of you. In the midst of not knowing, there is something in you that knows. And that vast supply is there for you. Would we but treat one another in that way, treat ourselves in that way? There comes a time when we can admit honestly, I of myself can do nothing. It's God flowing through me. It's this amazing divine matrix of love that I live in that provides all things for me, and I will understand that. And we're tested in our understanding. I am one of many, many, many people standing at podiums today throughout our nation who are speaking of faith communities to end homelessness and hunger. Today is at our Awareness Week, the start of our Awareness Week yesterday actually, National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. And so you have a brochure. I ask you not to look at it now, but know that you have a brochure in your bulletin in it. And it's going to encourage you to be educated, to know that in our midst there are those who are hungry and who are giving us an opportunity to feed them. There are those who are thirsty and want so much to drink of the living water so that they never thirst again. And the truth is, by sharing our love, by being neighbors, by loving our neighbors here in Naples, though we have different denominations going on, we have different ethnicities, different cultures, different languages, thank you, God, we've got a wonderful mix of lifestyles. Into this, we can bring, up through this, we can bring our understanding. The rule of St. Benedict says, all guests who present themselves are to be welcomed as Christ. And the doubting Thomas of you may say, but how do I do that? How do I do that when this person looks like they might attack me? I'm afraid. How do I do that when I've heard so many stories? How do I do that when I'm upset about something or I'm feeling judgmental? When I feel so much apart or intimidated by this opportunity to be the Christed self that I am? How do I do that? In Micah 6:8 it says, what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. So our church, Unity, has an active role, and the organization or the mission group in our church is called Unity in the Community. And Madeline is the amazing head of that. And many, many, many of you are volunteers with that. And all of you contribute in various ways. And you may not even know all of the things you're doing, all the good that you're doing by contributing here to Unity of Naples and the ways we share that in our community. But I will tell you, Avalon Elementary School is here in East Naples. We deal very much with what's going on closest to us in East Naples, a decision that was made years ago. Here in East Naples, there are approximately at that school, Avalon Elementary, 94% of them are in what would be called the poverty category. And they receive free lunches or reduced cost lunches and breakfasts every day. 12% of these children without homes. Here in Collier County. Here in Naples. Many of them live at the women's shelter. There's Grace Place. We work with and contribute to Grace Place. It's in Golden Gate City, which is defined as the highest pocket of need outside of Immokalee, all in Collier County. Grace Place, over 95% of them live at or near poverty level, which means for a family of 4 that their income is $22,050 or less. For a family of 4. Let's just breathe that a moment. Grace Place is a nonprofit organization, and it's one of the most wonderful organizations that we have here. It's a holistic family care education place. They're all about breaking the cycle of poverty, because poverty is part of our consciousness. That we would live fully in the kingdom, and there's no wrong or no right to it. All of us are being called to support one another in myriad ways. Currently, there are some 800 students enrolled in school-age programs at Grace Place, in adult education, language, English language, and literacy programs, and a nationally renowned program that's called Bright Beginnings. We support that. You can support it further. Youth Haven is another organization here, and they receive children who are taken out of their homes in times of crisis. Many of them are upset, don't know what to do, totally in doubt, afraid. And the gifts that we share with them, the gifts that our community shares, the love that we share helps them remember that they are loved, that God is fully present in them, and that they can lead productive lives. And they get that education by us, all of us, each one of us, reaching out a helping hand, so that not they can be fed today, but so they can feed themselves and their own from this day forward. There's a tiny little story I was told that a woman named Carol and her 8 children lost their home in Lee County. And they had nowhere to go, so they moved in with family that they had in Collier County. And their older children were placed with friends and family who said, we can temporarily house the children. The younger children went to live with their mother, with Carol, in a hotel temporarily that was providing space. And they contacted the Hunger and Homeless Coalition here, which is very active, so that they could get help with finding a more permanent place to live. Not just a more permanent place, but a place where a mother and 8 children could all come back together again. What can we do in unity? I mean, we live in paradise. We wake up, most of us, every day in a bed, a comfortable bed, perhaps one it took you months to research because you wanted just the right bed. And I know you know of, and your life has been touched by those who get up off the floor. So what do we do? Every faith community is being encouraged to pray, to know the truth, not to be afraid because of this, but to just know the truth, that every one of us is on this eternal journey of life, and every one of us goes through lack and limitation, and that consciousness of that we do. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how profitable your life is. You still go through these thoughts, these doubts, these wonderings of, is this, what do I? We're not here to deny the facts at all. We're here to behold the Christ presence in everyone we see. Quietly within yourself, if nothing else. There's no reason not to hold to the truth. Pray with them, see them for the amazing divine beings that they are. See each other for that. Look in the mirror and see yourself in that way, for you are God's beloved. And then just today, be more aware that there are ways that you can dig a little deeper with your roots. There are ways that you can open up and come up into the heart of your core, of your being, of your trunk. Just deepen in fact, before you deepen the roots, brush off the old thoughts you've been holding. Brush off those prejudices and judgments, thinking that somebody's not your brother or sister. Just brush it off. And with fresh understanding, that which you stand under, dig your roots a little deeper into the understanding heart and mind of God that flows in you. Come up into your trunk, be informed, heart forward, heart akimbo. Stand with all the power and presence that you have with your arms reaching up and out from the Christ of your being. And in that posture of giving, in that posture of love, pure spiritual understanding will always be yours. God bless you.